Ladies and gentlemen, fear. What a tricky little thing. It sneaks in, whispers doubts, holds us back. Fear is the thief of dreams, the enemy of progress, the great divider between where you are and where you could be. Fear is a choice. It may not feel like it in the moment, but the truth is, we decide how much power fear has over us. It's not something forced upon us, it's something we allow to take control. The problem is, most people don't even realize they're making that choice. They feel fear and immediately step back, retreat, and convince themselves it's a warning to stop. But what if fear wasn't a stop sign? What if it was a green light, signaling that something important is ahead? Think about the last time you felt afraid to do something. Maybe it was speaking up in a meeting, starting a business, taking a leap into the unknown. That fear wasn't telling you to quit. It was telling you that you were standing at the edge of growth. Every time you come across something unfamiliar, your brain sends signals of uncertainty. It's trying to protect you. It's saying, hey, we've never been here before. This could go wrong. But what your brain doesn't realize is that the greatest rewards in life exist on the other side of that uncertainty. Some people let fear dictate every move they make. They allow it to shape their decisions, determine their limits, and define their future. They build a life around avoiding fear rather than facing it. The result? A life of missed opportunities, unrealized potential, and deep regret. What's interesting is that most of the things people fear never even happen. They spend days, weeks, even years worrying about what might go wrong, only to look back and realize they let fear control them for no reason. Fear is just an emotion. It's not reality. It's not truth. It's a temporary feeling that can be overcome with a shift in perspective. The most successful people in the world don't live without fear. They just don't let it stop them. They feel it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway. They understand that fear isn't there to paralyze them. It's there to challenge them. It's a test of how badly they want something, how willing they are to push through discomfort, how ready they are to step into the next level of their life. Imagine what your life would look like if fear had no control over you. Imagine the things you would do, the chances you would take, the goals you would achieve. Fear isn't the enemy, staying stuck is. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't fear, it's action. Everyone feels fear, but not everyone chooses to rise above it. It's not about being fearless, it's about acting despite the fear. The moment you understand that fear is just a choice, you take back your power. You stop letting fear be the driver of your life and start using it as fuel. Instead of being held back by the what-ifs, you start focusing on the possibilities, and that's when everything begins to change. Failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of success. Too many people see failure as a dead end, when in reality, it's just a stepping stone. The people who achieve the most in life are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who refuse to let failure define them. They understand that every setback carries a lesson, every mistake provides experience, and every failure builds resilience. The problem is, most people fear failure so much that they avoid even trying. They see the possibility of things going wrong, and instead of moving forward, they retreat. They let the fear of failure rob them of opportunities that could have changed their lives. Think about a child learning to walk. They fall over and over again. They stumble, they trip, they hit the ground, but they don't stop trying. They don't sit down and say, well, I guess walking isn't for me. They keep getting up until they figure it out, and eventually they do. That same principle applies to everything in life. The only way to get better at something is to keep doing it, to push past the failures and learn from them. But somewhere along the way, as people get older, they develop this idea that failing is something to be ashamed of, something to avoid at all costs. That mindset is what holds most people back. Look at the most successful individuals in history. Entrepreneurs, athletes, inventors, artists, they all have one thing in common. They failed, often multiple times, before they ever succeeded. They launched businesses that flopped, created products that nobody wanted, lost games, missed shots, got rejected, and made countless mistakes. But they didn't quit. They adjusted, they learned, and they kept going. Every failure brought them one step closer to success. The reason they reached the top was not because they avoided failure, but because they embraced it. They used it as a teacher, a motivator, and a guide. The truth is, the fear of failure is far worse than failure itself. When people avoid taking risks because they're afraid of failing, they end up stuck. They settle for less, they stop growing, and they live with regret. But those who accept failure as part of the journey are the ones who eventually break through. The only real failure is quitting. As long as you keep going, as long as you keep learning, you're still in the game. Mistakes don't define you. What you do after them does. Failure is simply proof that you're trying, that you're pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, that you're taking action instead of sitting on the sidelines. Every time you fail, you gain knowledge. You figure out what works and what doesn't. You develop new strategies, sharpen your skills, and build mental toughness. The people who succeed in life are not the ones who never fall. They're the ones who always get back up. Rejection is something everyone experiences at some point, yet so many people allow it to hold them back. The fear of being rejected, whether by a person, a group, or an opportunity, keeps people from taking chances, speaking up, or going after what they truly want. They worry about what others will think, how they'll be judged, or whether they'll be good enough. But rejection is not a reflection of worth. It's simply a part of life. The most successful people in the world have been rejected more times than they can count, but they didn't let it stop them. Instead, they used it as fuel to move forward. Rejection is never personal. It may feel that way in the moment, but the truth is, rejection says more about the person giving it than the person receiving it. A company may reject a job applicant not because they aren't talented, but because they aren't the right fit. A customer may reject a product not because it's bad, but because they don't need it. A person may reject a relationship not because the other person isn't worthy, but because they have different goals or priorities. When people take rejection personally, they allow it to damage their confidence and self-worth. But those who understand that rejection is simply part of the process don't let it define them. They keep going. Think about the greatest authors, musicians, and innovators in history. Most of them were rejected countless times before they finally succeeded. Best-selling books were turned down by publishers, world-changing ideas were laughed at, and talented individuals were told they weren't good enough. But they didn't let those rejections become the final word. They believed in themselves enough to keep pushing forward, and eventually they found the right opportunity. If they had given up after their first rejection, their success would have never happened. Rejection is proof that you are trying, that you are putting yourself out there, that you are taking action. Those who avoid rejection are also avoiding growth. They stay in their comfort zones, never taking risks, never asking for what they want, never putting their skills or ideas on display. But comfort zones don't lead to success. The only way to move forward is to face rejection head-on and keep going despite it. The more someone gets rejected, the more they realize it's not something to be feared. It becomes just another step in the journey. The key is to separate rejection from self-worth. Just because someone says no doesn't mean the opportunity is gone forever. It just means it wasn't the right time, the right place, or the right people. The person who keeps showing up, keeps refining their skills, and keeps believing in themselves will eventually find their breakthrough. Every rejection is one step closer to the right yes. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't rejection, it's how they respond to it. The unknown is something that makes most people uncomfortable. There is a natural tendency to stick with what is familiar because it feels safe and predictable. People like routines, habits, and certainty. But the problem is that growth does not happen in places of comfort. The greatest opportunities in life exist just beyond what is known and familiar. The person who refuses to step into the unknown is also refusing to step into their potential. The fear of uncertainty keeps so many people stuck in the same place, year after year, because they are too afraid to take a step toward something new. The unknown can feel intimidating because it carries risks. People wonder, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not ready? These questions create hesitation, and hesitation leads to inaction. But the truth is, no one is ever fully ready. No one ever has all the answers before they start. The only way to figure things out is by moving forward, even when the path is unclear. The most successful people in the world didn't start with certainty. They started with courage. They took steps into the unknown, made mistakes, adjusted, and kept going. The knowledge they needed came from experience, not from waiting until they felt completely prepared. Opportunities don't come with guarantees. No one can promise that a new business will succeed, that a new career path will be the right one, or that a new relationship will last forever. But waiting for guarantees means missing out on everything that could be. The person who never takes risks also never experiences rewards. They stay in the same job, the same environment, the same routine, always wondering what could have been. The unknown is not something to be feared, it is something to be explored. Every major achievement in life requires stepping into a space of uncertainty. Think about the first time someone tries anything new. Whether it's learning a new skill, moving to a new place, or starting a new project, there is always a period of discomfort. Things feel awkward, doubts creep in, but over time, what once felt unfamiliar becomes second nature. The unknown turns into the known. What was once terrifying becomes normal. This is how progress happens. The person who is willing to embrace uncertainty, to take chances despite not knowing exactly how things will unfold, is the one who grows the most. Fear of the unknown is often worse than the unknown itself. The mind magnifies risks, creating worst-case scenarios that rarely ever happen. Most of the time, the things people fear never actually come true. But if they let those fears dictate their choices, they stay stuck. The key to overcoming fear of the unknown is action. Taking that first step, no matter how small, builds momentum. Once the first step is taken, the next one becomes easier. Over time, the fear fades, confidence grows, and new possibilities open up. Fear is often seen as a negative emotion, something that should be avoided at all costs. But fear itself is not the problem. The problem is how people respond to it. Most people see fear as a warning sign to stop, to turn back, to stay in their comfort zones. But what if fear wasn't something to be avoided? What if it was a signal that something important was happening? Fear is not just an obstacle. It is a sign of growth. It appears when someone is stepping into new territory, challenging themselves, and moving beyond what they have known. Instead of being a roadblock, fear can be a guide, showing the way to the next level. Think about any major moment of progress in life, whether it's speaking in front of an audience for the first time, starting a new business, or making a difficult decision. Fear is always present. That nervous energy, that feeling of uncertainty, it's a natural response to doing something that matters. But most people let that feeling stop them. They assume that if they feel fear, it must mean they are not ready, that they should wait until they feel more confident. What they don't realize is that confidence comes from action. No one starts out fearless. The people who appear confident today were once just as scared as anyone else. The difference is that they moved forward despite their fear, and in doing so, they became stronger. Fear and excitement are two sides of the same coin. The physical sensations of fear, an increased heart rate, heightened alertness, a rush of adrenaline, are the same sensations that come with excitement. The only difference is perspective. The same energy that makes someone feel afraid can also be turned into motivation. Instead of seeing fear as a reason to stop, it can be seen as proof that something meaningful is happening. The presence of fear often means that a person is on the edge of something important. It is a sign that they are growing, evolving, and pushing past their limits. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in life happen right after fear is faced. When someone pushes through discomfort and takes action anyway, they discover that fear was never as powerful as it seemed. The mind creates exaggerated fears, making challenges seem bigger than they really are. But once action is taken, fear loses its grip. It becomes clear that most of what was feared was just an illusion. The more someone faces fear head-on, the more they realize they have control over it. Each time they step through fear, they gain more confidence, more resilience, and more belief in their own ability to handle challenges. The key is to stop seeing fear as an enemy and start using it as a tool. Instead of running from it, lean into it. Instead of letting it paralyze, let it energize. Fear is not a stop sign. It is an invitation. It is a challenge to rise, to grow, to prove to yourself what you are capable of. Regret is one of the heaviest burdens a person can carry. It is not the failures, the mistakes, or the setbacks that haunt people the most. It is the chances they never took, the opportunities they let slip by, the dreams they talked themselves out of, the moments when fear held them back. The pain of looking back and wondering what could have been is far greater than any fear of failure. Time moves forward whether action is taken or not, and the worst feeling is realizing that years have passed and nothing has changed simply because fear was given too much power. People often wait for the perfect moment, telling themselves they will start when they feel ready, when circumstances are ideal, or when they have more certainty. But that moment never comes. There is no perfect time. There is only now. The longer a person waits, the harder it becomes to take action. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months, and before they know it, years have gone by without progress. Regret does not happen all at once. It builds slowly over time. Each decision to delay, each opportunity passed up, each excuse made, adds up until one day it becomes clear that too much time was wasted. Fear of failure keeps many people from even trying, but failure is temporary, regret lasts far longer. A failed attempt can be learned from, adjusted, and turned into a stepping stone for success. But an opportunity that is ignored may never come again. The people who achieve great things are not the ones who never fail. They are the ones who refuse to let fear stop them. They understand that the risk of failure is small compared to the risk of never knowing what was possible. Every step forward, no matter how uncertain, is still progress. Most of the things people fear never actually happen. The worst-case scenarios they play in their minds rarely come true, yet those fears hold them back from taking the steps that could change their lives. When looking back, people rarely regret the things they tried, even if they didn't work out as planned. What they regret are the things they were too afraid to attempt. They wonder what would have happened if they had taken that chance, spoken up, pursued that dream, or stepped outside of their comfort zone. The unknown is not nearly as scary as the thought of living a life full of unfulfilled potential. The only way to avoid regret is to take action, to stop overthinking, stop waiting for certainty, and stop letting fear dictate decisions. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the willingness to act in spite of it. Every decision made today shapes the future. Every risk taken, every effort made, every moment of stepping forward despite doubt is a step toward a life with fewer regrets. The future is not determined by what is feared, it is determined by what is done in spite of that fear.